All right, let's bring in my colleague who is absolutely gagging for the election, political editor at Sky News, Andrew Clennell. I know you love a campaign. I think we're getting closer and closer, but the window is narrowing, Andrew, despite all the speculation. Lots of things at play. They've got to look at the budget, the issues about this Chinese warship saga, tariff deadlines in relation to the US, the cyclone. I've just spoken about that now. Where do you think we're at?
Well, I don't think he's finally made up his mind, but he could call it Sunday or more likely Monday for April 12, or he has to do a budget, as you say, and go in May. And I don't think May's out of the question. I think April 12 you'd favour, but I don't think May's out of the question because anything could happen the next few days. I definitely think over the weekend the PM was thinking about May, but then they got some better polling, frankly, and it's all based on that. And I think it's a little bit absurd that in 3 weeks' time, almost to the hour, we should be having a federal budget. We haven't been told whether we have a federal budget or not. I mean, that's in the Prime Minister's power. You know, that's the way the system works. But I just think the government has a responsibility to tell us whether they're doing a budget or whether we're having an election. And at this rate, he's going to wait the PM until WA's over, see what the result is there, wait for the news poll on Sunday night and then determine it. It looks a little bit indecisive. I mean, just make a call and go with it is what I'd suggest at this point. The only argument I've had on the cyclone, I hear what you're saying, is if it's particularly bad, it would not be a good look to just go there quickly or something. Oh, by the way, we're now having an election. It's all about politics. That could backfire, I believe. So let's see what the calculations are.
I don't disagree with you that it could backfire.
Say again?
I don't disagree with you that it could. I don't disagree with you that it could backfire, but I do think it's absolutely more likely than not he'll call it Sunday or Monday. I think they will factor in that he gets sort of an elevated standing out of a crisis. The opposition leader is sort of neutralised in some respect. I think he could do what Gillard did to us at one stage, suspend campaigning for a couple of days, deal with the crisis. That puts Peter Dutton really out of the frame. It's also hard to come back in hard negative campaigning in the days around that event. So you basically lose about a week. And when you consider how early people start to poll these days, you know, you're 3 weeks in and people are polling. So they'd be polling by the end of March if he was to call it that early. You get that win for the incumbent where I haven't really focused on it. OK, I'll just leave that guy there. And a first-term PM would probably get a bit of a default vote. And Dutton's a one who has to win in his own right, so really has to move that needle. I think that's probably in the PM's mind at the moment.
Well, Cabinet Ministers, I think, that I've spoken to are of the view he should go in April. They just feel like there's so much going on at the moment. Something could happen to worsen the prospects of the government. And obviously that means one of the things probably going to happen early in the campaign is Donald Trump not giving us a tariff exemption. That could play early. But also, I've long said to you that the issue of not doing a budget and waiting this late to tell us you're not doing one is you do look like you're running away from something. Maybe at the end of the day that doesn't matter to normal voters. Like maybe that's not top of mind. But, you know, people in government, including the Prime Minister, are well aware, I think, that doing a budget, not doing a budget, both scenarios have their advantages and disadvantages. And perhaps that's why he's taken so long to make a decision. But all the mail I had overnight and early this morning was that the mood had shifted towards that April 12. But it was whether there was a variable like the cyclones, like poorer polling, which were going to affect that decision once again. There's enough work being done that has been done to produce a budget, and what a bizarre scenario that is too if there's no budget, Peter. As I understood it a couple of weeks ago, the portfolio budget statements went in.
Yeah, but
you've had all these ERCs.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, all this work, if it ends up being that in inverted commas, it's just a crazy sort of process. Why couldn't you say in January we're having no budget, you know?
No, but I'll tell you why they did all of that, Andrew. That's so that they can do the costings. They can get absolutely fantastic costings that are pretty bulletproof from Treasury under the cover of the ERC process, so under the cover of the budget process, and they are streets ahead of the opposition. I mean, I don't think the opposition themselves have put out enough policy, to my mind. If they're leading it for the campaign, if they're leaving it in the tank for the campaign, I think that's pretty dangerous. They can only cost through the Parliamentary Budget Office, as you know. These guys have been able to cost all the way through Treasury. They'll be stronger and more defendable costings. And Labor's set itself up. It'll have a line in the budget already, in the draft budget, for spending not yet announced. They'll have a great big war chest in there. I made the point at the top of the show, they spent $35 billion just this year, this calendar year alone. We haven't even started the campaign. So their spending is going to increase, and it's going to increase dramatically.